Hey everyone, this is Rock DIY. This is a 1997 Toyota Century, and it is a right-hand drive V12. And what I'm going to talk about, because I haven't been able to find much on it, and it wasn't necessary for this vehicle. The vehicle ran fine. The vehicle was won at auction and came from New Hampshire to North Carolina. And one of the things that was noticed right away is that a lot of the plugs on the engine wire harness are busted. And if you have this car, and not sure of all the years, but of course as the years progress on cars, some of these nylon plastic connectors go bad and don't connect anymore. In some cases you can use zip ties, but in other cases zip ties are just not enough anymore. So if you had to research this and thought about replacing the wiring harness, it is pretty complex. You can see this is the majority of the wiring harness on the driver's side, right hand side. Then you got the wiring harness on the passenger side, and there's all these offshoots of wires. Of course, the harness goes this way, and then there's a little bridge here, and then it comes over this way, and then there's some offshoots that go down underneath the engine, and then you got one main one over here that wraps around the cylinder head, goes over here by the battery, and then goes into the firewall. Pretty sure that the majority of any cable connectors or plugs are not bad inside the vehicle. It's all the ones close to the engine that have gone bad. And you can see in this case, this one's missing the little lock tab right here. This one right here is for the fuel injection, and there's 12 of these. And then you got these here, which are for the ignition coils. Those are all bad, and then there's some others that are bad. Went through carefully to determine which ones are good and which ones are bad. And as I already stated, the majority of the ones that were exposed to the majority of the heat produced by the engine are the ones that are damaged. If you were able to find a place that had a engine wire harness for this vehicle, you would have found out very quickly that it's between $950 to $1,300 just for the harness. That doesn't include shipping, tax, or any of that other stuff. So in this case, and I think I already said that there was really, this vehicle ran perfectly fine. There were no issues with the way it was running, and there's some little quirks here and there, but it ran pretty good. And there was some other work that was done, and will be some more work done after this is done. But this was a major concern because there were a lot of broken ones, and there were zip ties here and there and tape and everything else. So these need to be replaced. We decided to go without purchasing the entire wiring harness, because you can, and I don't know if it's worth it for some people, but you can purchase all of the plugs that go on the wiring harness, because there's nothing wrong with the wires. It's the plugs and the tape and the shielding material that's all deteriorating. So here's some plugs here, and here are some plugs here. And what I'm getting ready to do is confirm, after ordering these and getting them, is that they actually are the ones that are required, because there's nothing worse than finding out you don't have a part you need. As of right now, short 2 plugs that just haven't come in yet. But here's the kicker. If you have the patience and you know how to DIY and you want to do it yourself, you can do this job as far as replacing the plugs. In purchasing the plugs cost $398.25. That's for all of them. You do have to buy a kit for removing the wires or the plugs, the female connectors in most cases, from the plugs. So there's a tool kit that you'll have to buy in order to do that, or you can try to do it without, but good luck with that. So like I said, I'm gonna go through, verify that these plugs are correct, and here's something about these plugs. You can get these through a regular Toyota dealership. In my case, there's one in Asheville, North Carolina. There's a parts guy who's pretty good at resourcing stuff outside of the norm, and this would be outside of the norm for a modern day Toyota dealership. But these parts came in within 5 days, pretty quick. And don't be surprised, the colors aren't the same, or they may not be specifically for a Toyota Century. They could be for a Toyota Corolla, they could be for Toyota whatever. These plugs go across many different models, so don't be surprised if they're not the same color, not the same part number, and they are a different color. Like I said, I'm going to go through and verify right now that all the plugs that are needed are here. Here's an example of what I was talking about. The part number on this plug right here is 11317, and you can see this one's black, this one is white, and just to confirm, this is 1137 as well. So this one's black, this one's white, but they are the proper plug. Here's another case. This plug right here is 11002, and it is black. And then here is the part right here, which is 11002, except that it is white. I already previously mentioned all these plugs, and the big thing about all these plugs is that the colors may not necessarily match up with the color that's on the car. And I just want to make note of this up front, that removing the entire harness in order to put these on is not practical. So I can't just take these and easily do what needs to be done. I would have to take these out to the car while the harness is still in place and replace each plug. The good thing about these plugs is, only in this particular case, is that there's no more than 6 wires that need to be connected. Let me find the one. Yeah, right here. So maximum number would be 6, and as these are replaced, the best way to do this is to take this new plug, put it next to the old plug, remove a wire, place it in the new plug, remove a wire, place it in the new plug. Or what you could do is mark each one a different color with a paint pen. I bought a pack of 8 different colors, so what I could do is mark red, blue, white, orange, green, purple, so on and so forth. And then I'll also do the same thing for the wires, because as you could imagine, the worst thing you could do is put a wire in the wrong spot and then try to have to figure out which wire is in the wrong place. So it's in your best interest to make sure you put the wires in the right spot. So there's different ways to do that, and the good thing is that this isn't like a 18 wire plug where there's a good chance of messing up where each wire goes. So I'm still in the boat where there's a shortage of 2 plugs that haven't come in yet. They should come soon. But now what I want to talk about is some additional things that may be required. In not every case they will be needed, but in the case of this is a wire harness pin tool set, and you're not going to be able to buy just a wire harness plug tool set that's specific to the Toyota Century. You're going to have to take a stab at it. In this case, this one was purchased from Amazon, and you will just have to experiment with which tools will actually work in removing the pin. And only because I don't have the engine wire harness sitting here with me in my house, it's out at the car. Here is a battery pack for a remote control car, and you can see here's a a pin set for a plug, so I could look through these tools here and see which one might work. In a lot of cases, it's going to be purely experimental on which tool will actually work. So these are locked in, and I mean, for this specific, okay, that one came out, tool flew off, but it did work. Not quite what I expected, but it did work. And that was just picking a random tool. And that may be the case when you go to remove the wires from the old plugs to put into the new plugs. That was probably not the best example, but it did release it. Okay, so here is a tool set that you could purchase to assist you. Now, do you need to buy this? Absolutely not. If you've got a bunch of small, tiny screwdrivers, flat tip, you can try to use them. They may or may not work. Can't guarantee it. But I'm gonna use this tool set to help me out. Now, some other things I gotta point out, and again, may not necessarily be needed, but I did buy some extra wire. I didn't buy a bunch of different colors. I did buy, this is a 14 gauge wire, and this is just in case I need to cut some wire and repair some wire. And if I need to repair, then what I've got are these seal wire connectors, and these are all different gauges that you can use that'll connect the wires and keep them protected. One of the other things that's going to be a big deal in specifically on this vehicle, the Toyota Century 1997, is a lot of the plastic tape, electrical tape, so on and so forth, is all damaged by heat and time. So what I also did was buy this high temp electrical wrap. It's not electrical tape. Don't mix it up with electrical tape. You could use electrical tape, but this is different than the electrical tape. It doesn't appear to be very sticky, but once you start wrapping it around your wires, it does a pretty good job and insulates the wires from further damage. And so what I'm going to do, based on the damage of the looms, or there's not so much any wire sheathing damage, but I'm going to wrap this tape just around the wires to protect them over the long run. They've already had a long run at this point, and hopefully this will help. So there you go. Next step is to start removing plugs with the tool set and start putting the new ones on, and then also wrapping all of the wires and then fixing or repairing any wires that need to be fixed. When I did get all the connectors, I did verify that the numbers were correct as far as part numbers, that they matched up with the part numbers that are on the vehicle. The one thing I didn't do was verify that the plugs actually fit. So in this case, this is 11317, and it fits, so that one is good. So I'm gonna have to do that with all the rest of them just to confirm that they do fit. So here's what I'm doing in order to avoid or mistakenly put the wires into the wrong one. What I'm doing is taking one off the old one, putting it on the new one, taking the old one off, putting it on the new one, and attempting to go in order. They aren't that cooperative, but it's possible to get it done, and this is probably the best bet. Originally I was just going to write down the colors of all the wires, get this off, and then put them all into the new one, but this will just be easier to make sure that they go where they need to go. So there's a plastic tab right under there. This is falling apart as I do this, but there's a tab right under there. As soon as you get that off, you can pull this plug right out, and then just take it, put it directly into the new plug. Just like that. And the last one on this one. Not too worried about damaging the plastic plug, but you do want to be careful not to damage the wire or the metal clip itself. Alright, so that is one plug that is done. After you get them all in, then you got this piece right here that you push in to lock them in place. And that keeps those from wobbling. Not all of the plugs have this, but if they do have it, you do want to remove it. And so this piece right here is what keeps the pins stable. So you do want to get this off. Going to make it a whole lot easier to get this apart. Now if you're orienting the plug like this, and you've got this part right here where the little tab would be, what you have to do is reach in up in here, and you'll see two little metal pieces sticking up. You've got to place your tool in between those, and in most, so you can see that tab broke off. They don't always break off, but this will make it easier to get it off because the tab broke. So that one is off. But so I did the second one, but I'm going to leave it in place because I want to do this in order. And so this is the first one on this side. Just paying attention to the orientation. Got my new plug here. And you see you got this little white piece like this one did. I'm going to orient it the same way. And then what I'm going to do is pull this one out. And place it right in this one where it goes. And it clicks right in, so no issue with that. The second one, I'll go ahead and take it out. Place it in. And then you just got to do the rest of them. This is a different type of plug. And you can see how aged that one is because it pretty much shattered as soon as I pulled it out. And it's just supposed to be one piece, but it's not. It's just falling out everywhere. So there's actually only 4 metal pins on this one. This tool right here has been the best tool so far for removing the tabs. So that one just broke off. Alright, so again, before I start removing wires, you need to make sure it's oriented the same. And this one right here, first one to come out. Go ahead and put that one in. This plug actually has 6 holes, but only 4 wires. So you want to make sure you take these little dummy plugs out and put them on the new one. Otherwise you'll have water get in there. And then also make sure you only put the wires to the outside. All right, so the 2 on that side are in, and I just got to put the other 2 in. I know my hand's in the way, but kind of hard to do this without my hand being in the way. All right, there we go. Another plug done, minus making sure you put this back in to make sure all of the pins line up. So there's one more done. This here is plug 11149. Right there. Make sure I orient it correctly. This one's being pretty stubborn. This one's done except for pushing this part in. And that is it. I actually have to go back and put the plugs on this one. I forgot to remove them from the old one, and unfortunately they don't come with it. Yeah, so there's the 2 little rubber plugs that you have to put in the back side. Alright, so that should be waterproof now that it's got the plugs in it. Here's something to know if you do purchase one of these wire pin toolkits. This one's lettered A through Z, and just be aware, depending on your types of plugs, but specifically for this car, the one that did work was Z, and unfortunately I broke Z, so I ended up having to use a different one. I actually broke 2 in the process. So here's one that I broke, and here's one that I broke. So I broke B and Z. It's kind of good that B broke, because I found out when I got to Z actually worked pretty good. And then ultimately, because I broke Z, I had to go to H, and H worked pretty decently. Just finished putting all of the plugs on, and I guess it took about 2 hours to do. But every plug is replaced with the new plug. Didn't have to completely remove the wiring harness. If I had purchased a new wiring harness, the whole thing would have been removed. All of this, cables going underneath and cables going up into the cabin of the car, or the inside of the car, up underneath the dash. So about $400 to replace all the plugs, or $900 to $1,200 to replace the entire thing. And the labor would be pretty extensive for completely replacing the wiring harness. At least just replacing the plugs, it was just a matter of sitting in the same spot, replacing plug after plug. Some plugs are a pain in the butt. Some come off pretty easy, and then some of them pretty much just shatter, so they come apart pretty easily. And one other note, if you do use the wire pin toolkit, be careful putting your hand to the back side of the plug, because I actually stabbed myself in the finger a couple times. Hold the plug off to the side whenever you're trying to break those little tabs off inside. Otherwise you'll stick one of the pins right in your fingers. I'm not 100% sure why, but there are quite a few wires that even after I put all these plugs on that are brand new, a lot of these wires have some bare spots, and for some reason they always seem to be right on the back side of the connector. For example, this one is for a fuel injector, and you can see right before the back side where the rubber gasket is, they are bare, and there's a lot of cases of that. So what I'm gonna do is use some of this liquid electrical tape. It's better than using regular electrical tape, because what I found is trying to put regular electrical tape on small wires like that typically aren't very adhesive or receptive of electrical tape, and it comes out kind of sloppy. So rather than doing that, I'm going to use this And I've used this multiple times in the past, and unfortunately it's kind of like super glue. If you're going to use it. And if you let it sit, it's going to basically evaporate, disappear, harden, and be useless. So once you start doing this, you have to keep going, because what will end up happening is you'll come out, the applicator will be stuck in the glue basically, and the glue will be solid, or the liquid electrical tape will be solid. So once you start using it, make sure you go all the way through, because you may not have any when you find some other ones. This electrical liquid tape is going to be sloppy no matter what. The applicator, once you pull it out of the can, it tends to run down and get on the bristles, and then you end up with more than you need. But the way to do this is get some on the wires, and then just put a light coat, and then you want to overlap, go more than just where the bare wire is, and then just let it sit and dry, and then come back and do it again, and you'll get a much better end product if you do it that way, rather than just putting a big old glob on it right from the get-go. I ended up putting the liquid electrical tape in about 8 or 9 places, and you can see, like I said, it's kind of sloppy. I'll come back and clean some of that off. So there's that one, there's this one, there's that one, and then there's this one, and this one has 4 wires, and they were all, or they all had bare spots on them, so those all had to be done. Trying to find, no, there was another one. Anyway, I think I got them all.